Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Okay, great. Today we're tackling a concept I think we're all familiar with, at least on the surface.
Let me guess. Is it about?
Karma.
Karma.
Exactly. But, and here's the exciting part, we're not just going to skim the surface.
We're going deep, right?
Absolutely, we're going deep. We've
Yeah.
got some really thought-provoking source material on karma, and get this, forgiveness.
Oh, interesting. Forgiveness. Now, that's an unexpected twist.
Right, it's like what goes around comes around,
Yeah.
but with a whole new layer of complexity.
I like it already.
Me too. Okay, so to kick things off, the source material actually starts with this really interesting story. It's about this woman who she's having dinner with her aunt,
Okay.
and she's, a little irritated, maybe a little hangry, and she basically tells her aunt, "No more talk. I wish to eat in peace."
Oh, I've been there.
Right. We've
Wow.
all been there.
Eh.
But here's the thing. The very next day, this woman, she's at this fancy luncheon,
Oh, no.
and someone says those exact words to her.
No way. You're kidding. The universe works in mysterious ways.
It really does. But what I found fascinating is that the source describes this woman as being high in consciousness, which got me thinking.
High in consciousness.
Yeah. Like, does that mean the more aware you are of these spiritual laws, like karma, the faster you experience their effects?
That's an interesting question. The source doesn't go into specifics about levels of consciousness, but it seems to suggest that the more you understand these principles, the more in tune you are.
Okay, so it's like almost like being finely tuned to the frequencies of the universe. The more you understand the laws, the quicker the feedback loop.
Exactly. It's like with electricity, right? If you understand how it works, you can use it safely.
And powerfully.
Right. But if you're not careful,
Zap.
exactly. So understanding the principles of karma, that's important, but it's just the first step. It's not enough to just know the rules. You have to actually apply them, live by them.
So it's about responsibility too, then.
Absolutely. The more you understand, the greater your responsibility to align your actions with that understanding. And the source makes this really important distinction when it talks about the consequences. It says, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. It is the law which takes vengeance, not God."
Wow, that's powerful. So it's not about divine punishment.
It seems like the source is saying that God's not sitting up there keeping score, waiting to punish us for every misstep. It emphasizes that God sees us as perfect beings.
Created in his own image, right?
Exactly. So it's more about our own perception of ourselves, our choices and actions that create those karmic ripples.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like God sees the potential, the perfection, but we're the ones kind of messing things up with our, human stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's on us to align ourselves with that potential.
So this brings me to another quote that really stood out to me from the source. "Nothing ever happens without an onlooker." What's that all about? Is this where the power of our thoughts comes in?
Absolutely. The source is pointing to the idea that we often see our failures or successes in our minds before they actually happen. We become the onlooker to our own experiences.
So like we're shaping those experiences with our thoughts and beliefs before they even manifest in reality.
Precisely. And the source gives some really compelling examples, like the mother who constantly worries about her child getting sick. She's picturing it, almost willing it to happen.
Oh, I know so many parents like that.
Right. And then there's the example of the woman who visualizes her husband achieving great success. She sees it happening, and it does.
Okay, so our thoughts really do have that much power. It's almost like we're manifesting our reality.
It seems that way. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets really interesting. The source also cautions against trying to force outcomes through sheer willpower.
So we can't just wish for things and make them happen.
Well, it's not that simple. There's this story in the source about a woman who desperately wanted a house that belonged to an acquaintance.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
She really wanted this house, and she kept visualizing herself living there. And you know what? The owner died, and she got her wish.
Oh, wow. Be careful what you wish for, right? But there's got to be more to the story. There's always a twist with karma.
You know it. The source suggests that while we might have the power to influence events with our thoughts, it's crucial to align with divine will, not our personal will.
Okay. So it's not just about getting what you want. It's about making sure your desires are in harmony with, well, with the bigger picture.
Exactly. And that's where things got complicated for the woman in the story.
Right. So even though she got the house, it wasn't the happy ending she envisioned. Her husband died, and the house became a burden. It's like a cautionary tale.
It is. And the source implies that if she had aligned her desires with divine will, things might have unfolded differently. This reminds me of another example from the source, the one about the anxious mother whose daughter's about to go on a dangerous trip. She tries everything to stop her, but nothing works.
It's that classic struggle, wanting to protect someone you love, but realizing you can't control their choices.
Exactly. And the source suggests that sometimes the best approach is to surrender to a higher power. And that brings us to the other key concept we're diving into today, forgiveness. How does forgiveness fit into all of this? Can it help us navigate those tricky situations, maybe even change our karma?
Okay, so it sounds like karma is a bit more, uh, well, a bit more complex than just, good deeds get good results, bad deeds get bad results.
It definitely is. There's a lot of nuance to it. And, like we were just talking about, forgiveness really plays a key role in all of this.
Right, forgiveness. You mentioned that earlier. So what does the source material say about forgiveness?
Well, it actually dives deep into the nature of forgiveness, explaining that it's not about, condoning harmful actions or letting people off the hook.
Okay, so it's not about saying what they did was okay.
Exactly. It's more about releasing that negative energy you might be holding on to, when you've been wronged or even when you feel like you've messed up.
So it's not really about the other person then. It's more about shifting something within yourself.
You got it. Forgiveness, in the context of karma, it's an act of self-healing. It's about recognizing that holding on to anger, resentment, or guilt, it harms you in the long run.
Makes sense. It's like you're stuck in the past, replaying those same scenarios over and over again.
Exactly. It keeps you tethered to those experiences, preventing you from moving forward, from growing.
Oh, I see. So if you're harboring all that negativity, it's like you're holding on to that karmic boomerang. It can't complete its natural arc.
That's a great way to put it. Forgiveness is like cutting the string. You allow that energy to dissipate. Remember, karma is all about cause and effect.
Right, right. So when you hold on to negativity, you're basically perpetuating a cycle of, well, more negativity.
Exactly. You're attracting more of the same. But forgiveness, that allows you to step out of that cycle. It creates space for healing, growth, and positive change.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So thinking back to that anxious mother in the source material, the one who's so worried about her daughter going on that dangerous trip, how could forgiveness help her in that situation?
Ah, that's a perfect example. Because you see, her fear, it's creating resistance, conflict. It's feeding that very energy she's trying to avoid.
So it's like she's creating the very thing she's afraid of.
In a way, yes. The source suggests that forgiveness in this situation, well, it could involve several layers.
The layers. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these layers of forgiveness.
Well, firstly, she could forgive her daughter for making a choice that she doesn't agree with.
So not necessarily condoning the choice, but letting go of the anger and resentment.
Exactly. It allows her to shift her focus from trying to control the situation to finding a more peaceful, accepting way to navigate it.
Okay, so forgiveness paves the way for acceptance. And then acceptance can lead to a more harmonious resolution.
Precisely. And this leads to the second layer, self-forgiveness.
Oh, right. Because she's probably blaming herself, thinking she failed as a parent.
It's a common trap. But forgiving herself, for any perceived shortcomings, that allows her to release the guilt and shame she might be carrying.
That would definitely free up a lot of energy. Instead of berating herself, she could redirect that energy towards supporting her daughter in a more loving, compassionate way.
Exactly. Forgiveness, it's such a powerful tool for shifting your karmic energy. It's about recognizing that everyone is on their own journey, learning their own lessons, making their own choices.
And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is just let go. Trust. Offer support without judgment.
You got it. That's the essence of forgiveness. But, this brings up another question. What about situations from the past?
Ooh, yeah. Like, is it ever too late to forgive? Can you change the karmic impact of, past events through forgiveness?
That's a great question, and it really speaks to the timelessness of these spiritual principles. The beauty of forgiveness is that it's always available.
Always. So it's never too late.
Never too late. Whether it's forgiving yourself for past mistakes or forgiving someone who's wronged you, even if they're not in your life anymore.
Wow. So even if the situation is long gone, forgiveness can still have a positive impact on your present experience.
Absolutely. Forgiveness isn't about changing the past. It's about healing the present. It's about releasing that energetic baggage.
So that you can move forward with a lighter heart.
Exactly. A lighter heart, a clearer mind. That's the power of forgiveness.
This is so empowering. It means we're not stuck with the karmic residue of past events. Which brings us back to something we talked about earlier, aligning with divine will. How does that fit into all of this?
Well, that's where things get really, really interesting. The source material, it really emphasizes the idea of surrendering personal will, allowing infinite intelligence to work through you.
Infinite intelligence. Now, that's a concept that really intrigues me. What does that even mean?
Yeah, it's pretty profound, isn't it? The source doesn't give a specific definition, but it seems to point to this universal intelligence, a source of wisdom power that goes beyond our individual understanding.
So something bigger than ourselves.
Definitely. And it suggests that when you let go of your own agenda, surrender to this higher power, you tap into this flow of energy that can create amazing results, much greater than anything you could have done on your own.
So it's about trusting that there's a greater plan. Even if we don't understand it fully, reminds me of that serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
That's a perfect analogy. It's about recognizing that you're not this separate, isolated individual trying to force your will on the universe. You're part of something much bigger, a grand interconnectedness, and there's this divine orchestration of events, and you can choose to align with it.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you know when to surrender and when to take action? Is there a way to tell the difference between, personal will and divine will?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a delicate balance, and there's no easy answer. But the source suggests that you can look for clues. One is the feeling of peace. When you're aligned with divine will, there's a sense of ease and knowing that things are unfolding as they should.
So if you're feeling anxious, stressed, or like you're pushing against something, that might be a sign you're trying to force things.
It could be. It's a good time to pause, reflect, and ask for guidance. The source mentions prayer and meditation as powerful ways to connect with your inner wisdom, to figure out the best way forward.
It's about cultivating that connection with the infinite intelligence that flows through us. This is also fascinating. We've covered so much, from the basics of karma to forgiveness, and even this concept of surrendering to a higher will. It's clear that karma is not just some simple system of rewards and punishments. It's a lot more intricate than that.
It's this complex tapestry of cause and effect, interwoven with consciousness, choice, and ultimately love.
And within that tapestry, we have the power to shape our experiences, not through force or manipulation, but through understanding, forgiveness, and aligning with a greater purpose. So, what does this all mean for our listener? How can they apply these principles in their everyday life?
That's the key question, isn't it? The source really stresses the importance of aligning with divine will. It suggests that when you let go of personal will, you open yourself up to incredible possibilities.
Yeah, that's what's so amazing, right? If we can truly let go of our own limited perspective, what could we achieve? I mean, what would that look like for our listeners, in their everyday lives?
It's an interesting question to consider. It probably looks different for everyone. But I imagine for many, it might start with letting go of that need to control every little thing.
Right, right. Surrendering to the flow of life.
Exactly. Trusting that even when things are tough, there's a greater purpose unfolding, even if we don't see it right away.
So it's about having faith. Faith in a higher power, faith in the universe, maybe even faith in ourselves to handle whatever comes our way.
All of that. And it's also about remembering that, that we're not alone in all of this. We're all connected, and we have access to this wellspring of wisdom and support, this infinite intelligence that's always there.
It's like we're all swimming in the same ocean of consciousness,
Yeah,
connected by these unseen currents.
that's a beautiful way to put it. And in this ocean of consciousness, we have the power to choose, how we navigate those waves.
Right. We can choose fear, resistance, or we can choose love, forgiveness.
We can cling to our limited understanding, or we can surrender to something much, much greater than ourselves.
It's a powerful choice. This deep dive, it's been eye-opening. We started with karma, thinking it was just about, actions and consequences, but it's so much more than that.
It's a dance.
It is. A dance of cause and effect, consciousness, choice, and, at the heart of it all, love.
And it's in that dance that we find the power to shape our experiences. Not by force, but through understanding, forgiveness, aligning ourselves with something bigger.
So as we wrap things up here, what's the key takeaway for our listeners? How can they put all of this into practice?
That's the question, right? This whole idea of aligning with divine will, it's a journey. It's a process of waking up to your true nature, to who you really are.
It's a journey of self-discovery.
It is. And the most amazing part is that the journey, it's yours to create.
I love that. I hope this deep dive into karma and forgiveness has left our listeners feeling empowered, not overwhelmed. Because we do have choices.
We do.
We can choose our thoughts, our words, our actions. And those choices, they have a ripple effect.
They really do.
So as you go about your day, your week, think about how these principles can show up in your life. How can you be more aware of that karmic boomerang? How can you make forgiveness a part of your daily life, both for yourself and for others?
And how can you surrender to that flow of divine will? Trust that you're being guided toward your highest good.
These are big questions.
They are. But the answers, they're there.
They'll come. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into karma and forgiveness. It's been a pleasure, as always.
Always a pleasure.
Until next time, may your journey be filled with awareness, compassion, and that unwavering faith that everything is unfolding, well, exactly as it should.